The moment the studio lights settle and the applause starts to fade, something already feels tense. Not loud. Not explosive. Just that strange quiet where you can tell two people on stage are about to clash. Joy Behar leans back slightly in her chair, smiling the way she does when she's about to ask a question that isn't really a question. Across from her, Sylvester Stallone sits calmly, hands folded. Relaxed posture. But his eyes are locked in. Joy tilts her head. "So Sylvester," she begins, voice light but pointed, "you've built this whole career on these very macho characters. Tough guys, fighters, soldiers. Some people say that kind of masculinity is a little outdated now." A small murmur ripples through the audience. Stallone doesn't answer immediately. He just watches her. Joy continues before he can respond. "I mean," she says with a quick shrug, "Rocky, Rambo, all these men solving problems with their fists. Do you think that message still really fits today?" A few scattered claps from somewhere in the crowd. A few uncomfortable laughs. Stallone finally leans forward slightly toward the table. His voice is calm. "Can I ask you something first?" Joy raises an eyebrow. "Sure." Stallone gestures toward the audience. "How many people here have seen Rocky?" Almost every hand in the audience shoots up. Applause follows immediately. Joy chuckles lightly. "Well, yes, it's a famous movie." Stallone nods. "Right. But here's the thing. Rocky doesn't solve problems with his fists." Joy blinks. "Well, he's a boxer." The audience laughs. Stallone smiles faintly but shakes his head. "No, no. He fights in the ring. That's the sport. But the whole point of the movie isn't the fighting." He pauses. "It's getting back up when life knocks you down." The crowd claps louder this time. Joy leans back again, folding her arms loosely. "But don't you think those movies still glorify violence?" she presses. There's a brief pause. Stallone takes a breath. "You know what's interesting," he says. "What?" "People who criticize those movies usually haven't really watched them." A few audience members react with a quick, "Oh." Joy laughs, though it sounds a little forced. "Oh, I've seen them." "Have you?" Stallone asks calmly. Joy nods. "Of course." Stallone tilts his head. "Then you remember Rocky losing the first fight, right?" Joy hesitates for a second. "Well, he loses," Stallone says, gently but firmly. "The hero loses." A louder murmur spreads through the audience. Joy shifts in her chair. "Well, sure, but he still represents this very old-school idea of masculinity." Stallone nods slowly. "You mean resilience?" Joy smirks slightly. "I mean aggression." The room gets quiet. Stallone's expression changes just a little. Still calm, but sharper. "Aggression is hurting people," he says. "Rocky spends half the movie doubting himself." Joy opens her mouth to respond, but Stallone continues. "He's poor. He's working as a debt collector. He's got no confidence. No support." He gestures toward the audience again. "And yet people connected with him all over the world." Applause builds again. Joy waves her hand lightly. Sure. It's inspiring. But times change." Stallone leans back now. "People don't change that much." The audience reacts with scattered clapping. Joy lets out a small laugh. "You don't think culture evolves?" "Oh, it does," Stallone says quickly. "But human struggle doesn't." There's a brief pause. Joy leans forward, sensing an opening. "But don't you think some of those messages encourage men to bottle emotions? To just tough it out, instead of dealing with feelings?" The audience murmurs again. Stallone rubs his hands together slowly. "Did you watch the scenes with Adrian?" Joy pauses. "Well, because Rocky spends most of the movie terrified to talk to her." Laughter bursts from the crowd. Stallone smiles slightly. He's shy. Nervous. Awkward. Not exactly the emotionless tough guy people imagine. Joy presses her lips together. "Okay, but Rambo definitely wasn't shy." The audience laughs. Stallone nods. "You're right. He pauses again. But do you remember the ending of First Blood? Joy looks at him, waiting. The big speech, Stallone continues. When Rambo breaks down. The audience quiets instantly. He's crying, Stallone says softly. Talking about losing his friends. Not fitting into the country he fought for. A few audience members clap. Joy looks slightly surprised. Well, yes, that scene is emotional. Stallone nods. So if the character ends the movie crying, how exactly is that promoting emotional suppression? The crowd reacts with louder applause now. Joy raises her hands slightly. Okay, fair point, she says quickly. But the broader genre still pushes a certain idea of masculinity. Stallone leans forward again. Joy, can I be honest with you? She smiles cautiously. That's usually where trouble starts, but go ahead. The audience laughs. Stallone chuckles too. I think sometimes people criticize these stories because they're simple. Joy tilts her head. And that's bad. No, Stallone replies. It's powerful. He pauses. A guy struggles. He works hard. He gets back up. More applause. Joy leans back again. But life isn't always that simple. Stallone shrugs lightly. No, he says. But hope is. The audience claps again, louder this time. Joy watches the crowd for a moment, clearly noticing the reaction. Then she turns back to Stallone. Let me ask you something else, she says. Sure. Do you ever worry that audiences misunderstand your characters? Stallone thinks for a moment. Sometimes. Joy leans forward slightly. In what way? Stallone's answer comes quickly. They think the strength is physical. He taps the table lightly. But the real strength is getting knocked down and standing up again. More applause. Joy smiles politely, but there's a sharpness behind it now. But Sylvester, she says, voice tightening just a little, isn't that also a very convenient message coming from a multi-millionaire movie star? The audience reacts instantly. A few gasps. A few murmurs. Stallone doesn't move. He just looks at her. And for the first time since the interview started, his smile disappears. The room goes completely silent. For a few seconds, the studio is completely silent. Sylvester Stallone doesn't respond right away. He just sits there, looking at Joy Behar across the table. The audience can feel it. The tone of the conversation has shifted. Joy keeps a polite smile on her face, but the question is still hanging in the air. Isn't that also a very convenient message coming from a multi-millionaire movie star? A few people in the audience murmur quietly. Stallone finally exhales and leans forward slightly, resting his forearms on the table. You know, he says calmly, that's actually a fair question. Joy raises her eyebrows a little, clearly expecting some pushback. But here's the part people forget, Stallone continues. I wasn't always a millionaire. A couple audience members clap softly. Joy nods. Well, most successful people weren't. Stallone smiles faintly. True. But most successful people didn't have to sell their dog to survive. The audience suddenly reacts with surprised murmurs. Joy blinks. Wait, what? Stallone nods slowly. When I was writing Rocky, I had about $20 in my bank account. The room grows quiet again. I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't afford food. Joy leans in slightly now, curious. And you sold your dog? Stallone nods. I had a bullmastiff named Butkus. Best friend I had at the time. But I was broke. Completely broke. He pauses. I sold him outside a liquor store for $40. A wave of stunned reactions spreads through the audience. Joy's expression softens a little. That must have been hard. It was brutal, Stallone says quietly. There's a short pause before he continues. A couple weeks later, I sold the Rocky script. The audience starts clapping lightly. And the first thing I did, Stallone adds, was go back to that same liquor store for 3 days straight until I found the guy who bought my dog. Joy smiles slightly. And you got him back. Stallone laughs. Not easily. The audience chuckles. He knew I had money now. The guy wanted $5,000. Gasps ripple across the studio. Joy laughs in disbelief. You paid that? Every cent, Stallone says instantly. The audience erupts into applause. Stallone shrugs lightly. Worth it. Joy nods slowly, but then tilts her head again. Okay, that's a great story, she admits. But that still doesn't change the reality that you're incredibly wealthy now. Stallone doesn't react defensively. Sure, he says. But that's not the point of those stories. Joy folds her arms again. Then what is? Stallone gestures lightly toward the audience. The point is that people watching those movies see themselves in that struggle. The audience claps again. Joy interrupts. But do they? Or do they see an unrealistic fantasy where hard work always pays off? A few audience members react with quiet murmurs. Stallone thinks for a second. You know what the real fantasy is, he says. Joy raises an eyebrow. What? That life is fair. The room goes silent again. Stallone continues. Rocky never promised fairness. It promised effort. A few audience members start clapping again. Joy shakes her head slightly. But effort doesn't guarantee success. You're right, Stallone says immediately. That answer clearly catches Joy off guard. It doesn't. He pauses. But giving up guarantees failure. The audience bursts into loud applause. Joy smiles tightly. You're very good at inspirational speeches. Stallone chuckles. I'm not trying to inspire anyone. Joy leans forward again. Then what are you trying to do? Stallone's answer comes without hesitation. Remind people they're stronger than they think. More applause. Joy looks out at the cheering audience and then back at Stallone. But Sylvester, she says, voice sharpening slightly again, some critics say your movies promote this idea that strength solves everything. Stallone shakes his head. That's not what they say. Joy crosses her arms. That's exactly what they show. Stallone pauses. Then he says something that makes the audience go quiet again. Joy, when was the last time you watched Rocky all the way through? Joy hesitates for a split second. I've seen it. That wasn't my question, Stallone replies calmly. A few people in the audience laugh nervously. Joy shifts slightly in her seat. It's been a while. Stallone nods. Then maybe that's the problem. The audience reacts with a loud, oh. Joy laughs, though there's tension in it. Are you saying I need homework? Stallone smiles. I'm saying context matters. He continues before she can jump in. Rocky wins people over by refusing to quit. Not by beating someone up. Applause fills the studio again. Joy lifts her hands slightly. All right, all right. She looks at the crowd. You guys are definitely on his side today. The audience laughs loudly. Stallone grins. Hey, I didn't bring them here. Joy chuckles, then sighs dramatically. Well, I walked into that one. The crowd laughs again. But then Joy asks one more question. So let me ask you this, she says. If you could send one message to people watching today, what would it be? Stallone pauses. For the first time in the interview, he takes a few seconds to think. Then he looks directly toward the audience. Life is going to hit you, he says slowly. Hard. The room grows quiet again. You'll get knocked down. Embarrassed. Doubt yourself. He shrugs slightly. That's normal. Then he leans forward a little. What matters is whether you stand back up. The audience erupts into loud applause and cheers. Joy nods slowly, letting the applause roll for a moment. Well, she says with a smile, I think we just got a Rocky speech live on television. The crowd laughs and claps again. Stallone smiles. Joy turns slightly toward the camera. And honestly, not a bad reminder. She looks back at Stallone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. The applause continues as the camera slowly pulls back. And before the segment ends, the host adds one last line to viewers watching at home. If you were watching that conversation, we'd love to hear your take. Who made the stronger point today? She gestures toward Stallone. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe for more conversations like this.